withhold information about a counterterrorism program from Congress. And now that some Democrats want to see some investigation of that into the nature of this program, what it was exactly, and why Cheney kept congressional leaders in the dark. So what exactly was this secret counterterrorism program, and was it illegal to keep it from the Congress? David Corns, the Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones Magazine and a columnist for CQ Politics, and Ron Suskind, an investigative reporter and the author of the book, The 1% Doctrine. Let me go to Ron. Thank you for joining us, Ron. You are the expert. What was Cheney up to here exactly? What did he authorize, and what did he keep secret from the Congress?
Well, these are the early days after 9/11. The CIA was feeling it needed to build almost a paramilitary capability to match up with this vast network, this web, this matrix it was building in terms of communications and financial surveillance. We know a lot about that. The view is that essentially CIA would sort of tag al-Qaeda operatives, jihadists, couriers, and they would lead us to cells, and then the CIA would use its paramilitary capability to take the cells out. You know, at the start of the so-called war on terror, the CIA viewed itself essentially as a fighting agent, as a fighting entity. And part of what we're seeing here are what happened in these early days. Cheney said, as far as I understand from some calls I've been making, look, until we get to fruition, there's no need to brief this to anybody.
Who the hell is Cheney? First of all, let's get this straight, Ron. I want to get this straight on record. Somebody's got to take a refresher course on the U.S. Constitution. Yeah. Even though this government's passed and it's out of history right now, we got to know what the hell happened here. Cheney had no constitutional authority, no executive authority whatsoever under the Constitution. He's simply there to preside over the United States Senate and take his turn if something happens to the president. How did he get the authority to tell the CIA to do anything, much like conduct an undercover activity and not tell the Congress about it? The Congress has authority. He has none. Why did they take orders from him?
Everything.
I just want to know, why did the damn CIA listen to him for a second? He had no executive authority, so how could he get away with it?
Cheney was acting.
This just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Look,
why the Congress? Why does anybody let that man have executive authority? He had none. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
Cheney was acting at this point on matters of intelligence essentially as the president. They were briefing Cheney.
Who said so?
I have it in all my books.
Who told the CIA to take orders from this guy?
Well, you know,
just a minute.
Cheney, Cheney, look, the fact is it's just the way this president, President Bush, structured his White House. CIA would brief the president and the vice president, and then the vice president would essentially take over. He would be there for the daily operational briefs.
Well, what's
what are we going to do next?
About Bush being the decider if this guy decides what Congress knows about counterterrorism?
There was a variety of areas that I've written about and others have as well, that the president essentially says, just make sure it gets done and I don't want to know anymore, and Dick will handle it from here. This is one of those areas. So the president, in case of emergency, can be deniable about some of these things that we're doing that he never, or the United States never, should essentially take responsibility for. That was the way this system worked.
Well, is this runaway government? What is this? There's no constitutional checks on this guy because he won't let Congress know about it. He has no constitutional accountability because he has no constitutional authority. In other words, if the president tells Cheney he can do something, he tells the CIA to take orders from him. Did the president ever call the CIA director and say, take orders from Cheney?
It was a structure set up to avoid accountability by the president, specifically. That was the whole idea.
Astounding. Go ahead, David. Are you surprised by this?
Well,
that Cheney can give orders to the CIA?
I have to say I'm not surprised. I mean, as Ron has written, as I wrote in the book with Mike Isikoff, again and again.
Yeah, you guys are writing books after the fact. It didn't do us much good at the time, though.
Well, I'm sorry. A lot of reporters were asleep at the switch back then. The CIA serves the president. If the president says, hey, this is my guy, go see him.
Do you know if he ever told them that?
No, I don't know if he said that. But there's a way in a bureaucracy. You know how Washington works better than anyone else. Yeah. If the president sends a signal, you deal with Dick in this.
Can you imagine Lyndon Johnson calling the CIA and telling them what to do? It's unimaginable.
Well, it depends how you structure the power equation.
Spiro Agnew calling the vice president.
Well, there's no way Nixon let Spiro Agnew
name a vice president in history who would have given an order to the CIA.
The interesting thing about the story so far is that even Democrats on the Hill have said that there's not necessarily anything that was wrong with what the CIA was trying to do. We can't be sure because we don't have the details.
Right.
But here we have Cheney once again showing his utter disregard for Republican government more.
So why do we have elections? Let's take a look at it. Here's the Wall Street Journal reporting today. Amid the high alert following the September 11th terrorist attacks, a small CIA unit examined the potential for targeted assassinations of al-Qaeda operatives, according to 3 former officials. Some officials who advocated the approach were seeking to build teams of CIA and military special force commandos to emulate what the Israelis did after the Munich Olympics, terrorist attacks back then at the Olympics, said another former intelligence official. Quote, it was straight out of the movies. One of the former intelligence officials said it was like, let's kill them all. Okay, let's get away from the exact substance here to the question of authority to do this. I remember Oliver North, Ron, and all the hell that we went through when we have renegade people doing stuff without constitutional authority. But you say this president said to his vice president, you do this dirty work, what he used to call the dark side or whatever Cheney called it, and no, don't tell me about it. Do we know that happened? There was actually a conversation like that?
I have no doubt there was that conversation. The fact is...
But we don't know if there was. You just assume. Could it be that Cheney's manner, his ability to simply take authority, went along with the president's delusion that he was the decider?
No, I think
that there never was a conversation.
I don't agree. The president understood. The president understood the structure here. You know, he was no fool. He was in the White House. But what happens here, essentially, you've got a violation of the basic issues of accountability in a democracy. Cheney could operate this. We're not talking Ollie North now. We're talking the Vice President of the United States acting as a president who is directing, in this case, not only vast surveillance activities, but ostensibly paramilitary units to carry through to some sort of outcome. What we're finding. Now, what's interesting, though, important, is that we didn't actually use these units because the surveillance was not strong and targeted enough, frankly, to employ them, you know, and that's one of the reasons why Panetta so now easily can close down the program.
Well, here's the National Security Act in 47. His amendment says the president shall ensure that the congressional intelligence committees are kept fully and currently informed of the intelligence activities of the United States, including any significant anticipated intelligence activity. So if that's the law, according to these reports, the vice president violated them.
Listen, there didn't have to be the conversation that you're asking us about between Bush and Cheney. I think after 9/11, it was pretty clear to both of them what their roles were going to be. Now, this Cheney is a guy who wouldn't even give up the names of the people who came to talk to his staff about energy issues. So, of course, when it comes to this,
he would never tell us it was on the energy
on issue after issue, he said, I'm not going to share this with Congress. I don't trust these guys, which means he doesn't trust our very system. Because the only way you're allowed to do secret stuff under our Constitution if there's some sort of oversight from people who are elected by the general public, not just the president and the vice president.
It's amazing that we elected Vice President Cheney and Scooter Libby to run our country. It's just astaunding to me that the president let these kids operate like it was their playpen.
This can be investigated by the House and Senate Intelligence Committees.
Are they going to have the nerve to do it?
I hope they do.
David, you're an expert. I mean, sorry, Ron, do you think the House and the Senate have the guts, the strength, to demand a full, on-the-record, under oath explanation from the Vice President and others regarding this, including Scooter Libby as Chief of Staff and David Addington, the whole band of them? Will they ever haul them before the Congress and make them swear to the truth?
I think what Panetta is doing here is throwing this up to Obama, saying this seems to be a violation of law. Violation of law that's clear, and that in a way empowers Obama to say, I'm simply upholding the laws. That's when we might get some action here.
Ron, I want you on again this week. Please come back. Ron Suska and David Corn, you're always welcome.